I guess we're
I
ready.
call the Borough Bellefonte Council work session to order at 6 p.m. During these discussions, there are no motions made or any agreements made during this meeting. Need some consensus, possibly. At this time, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Bellefonte Borough Council work session. At this time, then, we'll move on to the trivia question from Mr. Benier.
Where is and what people do we commonly associate with the beginning of democracy? So a certain people, a certain city is credited with the birthplace of democracy.
Williamsburg, Virginia.
That's an excellent guess. It's incorrect. It is not in the United States.
Ithaca?
And it is not American.
Greece. Ithaca.
Getting close. The Greek people are commonly known to have been the people who created democracy in Athens. Athens, Greece. That's it. Mr. Johnson, were you paying attention?
I'm reading it right here. Ancient Athens.
You Googled it already?
He's on it.
Good thing he's a slow
See
Googler.
everybody laugh. That's the key.
That is good.
All right.
All right, then we're going to move into special presentation and items. We'll start with the 2023 budget, with the general fund goals for 2023, matching resources.
Want me to
Yeah,
start?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so we were all excited because the general fund budget is only short $86,000, which sounds like a lot, but when we start usually at $300,000, this is awesome. And so, I forgot to put in the packet the chief's list and the street department list, so they're at the table. Everything on these lists is in there. Going into next year, they're saying that the housing market is gonna go down, so, and we're going into a recession, so we reduced the real estate transfer tax, the earned income tax, and the real estate tax revenue because of that. It's anybody's guess as to how much, so we took a stab at what we thought was reasonable. The police contract is not settled yet, so those are estimated. And there's we're predicting a net income for this year that more than covers the shortfall for next year. So if you choose to not have a tax increase, it is covered. I did not put a tax increase in here. That's up to you guys to decide if you want, and I can do whatever you want me to do.
With regard to the police wages, I would like to discuss that in executive session because we are negotiating. It's something that we would like to keep in that executive session format at this time until that contract is settled. Nice shot.
I'll open it up if anybody has questions.
That's super exciting.
It
The
is.
numbers. Yeah. No, I mean the budget numbers.
I know.
Oh. Yeah, that's good, right?
Yeah, Don you should have heard Don. He couldn't believe how happy he was.
Dawn got excited?
He did.
That's got to be good then. I vote yes.
Yeah, see, we're all excited, I think, because we were cringing thinking we were gonna start out at 300,000 or more shortfall. And I made him look it over because I looked at it 2 or 3 times and thought it was too good to be true.
I think the most important thing too was that the way Lori did it. I mean, if she used the same numbers on revenue that she used for this year, there wouldn't be even an $86,000 deficit. I mean, so it's very conservative in terms of what we think will generate in revenue.
I do have one question. On the work session general fund budget 21 to 23, the 23 budget for planning and zoning has a salary but no social security expense, enrollment administration expense, or retirement expense.
You mean for 2023?
Yes.
Because the gal that does that went from a employee to a contractor. So
I
it's-
thought zoning was Gina.
It is.
It is. Gina's a contracted employee.
Okay, okay. Makes sense, thank you.
Chief, can you run down over number 11 for us? This is something new, I believe. That you're responsible
Yes. The Patton Township headed up a Center County accident reconstruction team. So basically, there's about 4 or 5, actually about 7 or 8 officers within the Center region that are at a level of accident investigators they're considered accident reconstruction, which is a very, very skilled position. We only had one of them since I've been here, and it was Nick McGarvey. It takes a lot of training to get to that level. We do not have enough accidents to justify that. However, if we do have a fatal accident, we were lucky that PSP covered the last one, and they will help us. But if the cause of the accident is deceased, so there's no one to arrest, PSP will not send an accident recon team in to do the investigation. So they request just a small monetary assistance with payment to help with some of their equipment, which is a drone. It was an $11,000 drone, and they split the cost up, and they would like us to pay a share. Therefore, we do not have to have anyone in that reconstruction team. So if we have an accident and PSP is busy on an accident and we need a reconstruction team, they will send one down free of charge. So it's like it's a policy. Patton Township spearheaded it, but there's officers from State College, Borough, Ferguson, Patton, and they would come down and do the accident reconstruction, which is very time consuming. They would absorb all the cost associated with that, court testimony, testifying in court as expert witnesses.
It's a countywide team, but the county's not involved with it.
No, it's not, no.
Okay.
When you say countywide, is it just the 5?
Yes.
5 police?
Yes, 5.
Municipalities
5
that have
municipal, yes.
that have police departments, okay.
We also, for an example, for EVA, emergency vehicle operation training, which is big, it's huge, it's one of our biggest liabilities, our motor vehicle operation. We do not have an instructor here at Bellefonte, but we helped initially with the training, so we get that. We kind of lumped in, piggyback with they don't expect us to provide a trainer. It's a 3-week course, but we benefit from that.
How often do you have an accident, Sean, where there's nobody cited?
Where nobody's cited?
It says, this
Right,
means that if there is no one to be cited or arrested for.
Right. I'm saying if the cause of if a serious accident, I mean, we have very few accidents that actually go to the level of reconstruction. However, say if there's a pedestrian, or actually say if there's a fatal accident on Slaughterhouse Road, or and the driver that caused the accident, and he's deceased, he dies in the accident, then there's no one to be arrested.
Okay.
So then their PSP will not
Thanks, that explains
investigate
it.
that.
Non-prosecuted.
Non-prosecuted.
To justify it, make it a little bit simpler. If
Thanks.
no one's going to be prosecuted as a result of the accident, he explained, operator number 1, the person who is most at fault, is the person who passed away, then there's no reason to reconstruct it because it's not going to ever go into the courtroom. And however,
Civil.
if the passenger is deceased, now you got a mess. So you better get somebody out there to reconstruct it, you know? Because now you're gonna have somebody that caused the death of someone else. That probably doesn't happen too often, but if it ever does, it'd be nice to have whatever we have to be able to go out there.
Right.
I thought from that last fatality we did have in Bellefonte, I know we had some time changes in the
That
police department.
PSP did handle that.
PSP
Yep, they
did
did.
that.
They will. They'll handle it if they're available. They'll gladly help us. That's not guaranteeing there's not another accident somewhere.
Potential person that would be charged or prosecuted, right? So
Right,
that-
there
So
was.
they came in
Right.
that instance.
They were actually on duty that day. Yeah, we were off on furlough.
Any other questions for Chief? And all this is already totaled into the, what you have ready for the police budget?
I'm sorry.
It's from whatever's ready for the police department at this point. This is-
Yep.
What we're planning on doing is we'll look over the numbers and come into the next work session with recommendations. We'd like to look at the rankings that members took part in. If you haven't done them or you need help with those, let us know. We do want to try to look at how things ranked in the process, and we also, learn from the process itself. We want to gather more information for next year's budget, starting in January. So, again, I think the good news is we have a small gap versus a very large gap. So that's very positive at this time. I personally don't think we need a special meeting to work out the differences. I think we could come into the next work session with recommendations, and worst case scenario, we take it out of our reserves, but I think we feel like we're in very, very good shape at this point in time with the general fund.
So I worked on these rankings this afternoon, and I did add questions and comments at the bottom.
Okay.
I did try to do it, just FYI, in the detailed questions where there was the block that we said, if you have questions, add them here. It's in PDF format, and you can't, and there's no way to edit that, so that's why I put them under the,
Yeah, there was difficulty. We noticed that the last time. So, yeah, I put those boxes on the Excel sheet for you guys to comment in.
So I made like 3 or 4 comments and questions. So there's one item in the general budget I didn't rank because I didn't know the answer to my question.
Okay.
Another one I did give rankings, but may have to go back and once you got to get an answer to it.
Okay, we will, I did not look over those because I wasn't sure everybody knew the boxes were there, but we will go through those. And so please add comments.
Yeah,
questions.
look at the forms. If you're still having trouble, computer problems, whatever, we'll try to decipher as best we can, but the door is still wide open to make comments and all of that. So,
Is that all for budgets tonight, or is there more?
We really tried to focus on the general fund tonight, because that is the largest fund that we deal with and has all these subcategories, as you heard, the police, for example, some other categories, streets. It's usually very difficult to get the balance. A couple of the other funds we went over early, like parks, that it is a real estate-based fund for revenue, but they aren't as difficult to balance like the general fund is. Of course, water and sewer, that's for the authority to set any changes in their rates, but it's looking pretty good as well. So we're just in a good position right now.
Out of curiosity, when does the DBI contribution end?
I think not next year, the following year.
Okay. And it'll go down another 50% from what we see here?
I didn't look at next year yet.
We have a
or that
schedule,
year.
yeah.
I was more concerned
I didn't
with
thought it was half, and
24.
it's only 2 years. I'm thinking
Yes.
it's only
I
half.
think so. We'd have to refresh our memories, but yes.
Well, they're doing well, and I'm pleased with that, so So I think us having provided that contribution has been helpful.
With respect to the goals sheet, you look down over this, you'll see there's a lot of items that we completed, which is good news. Usually when we put our budget document together, we'll include this in a different format, but it'll show our accomplishments for 22 or the previous year. And of course, we project our goals for 2023 or the next year. We would like to do the same, so I'm looking for feedback on projects, things that you'd like to see done differently in our operations. I can give you a couple examples. The walkway over here, along Spring Creek, as of, at the past seasons, has no winter maintenance unless it's been by volunteers. I know that's been an issue. If we want to have winter maintenance, we need to schedule or budget the resources accordingly. That was the message on the agenda. If there's something you want us to do, or from a organization or operations perspective that we're not doing, that would be done, we just want to match the resources, make sure we have the resources budgeted. So, asking for ideas, you can even email me them. But before we fine-tune that budget, we want to try to capture these things. A couple other items that come to mind is Musser Lane, the compost facility. There's no winter maintenance for that. And we have occasional people who want to stop down, drop things off. We talked internally about posting. You can go in at your own risk as far as getting stuck or whatever. We wouldn't be able to go pull you out if you get stuck in the snow or something like that. We talked about a retreat, a council retreat, where we fine-tune our goals and strategic plan. We have some estimates of what that would cost. So again, if that's something that you think would maybe happen in January or soon in the beginning of the year, we want to budget accordingly and start making motions to get that set up. But if there's something, again, you've seen in your travels or heard us talk about, or you think there's something we're missing, let us know. We want to make sure we get it covered.
So right now, there is expense for a retreat, so that's currently in the budget.
Okay, that was one just came to mind. I didn't go down in detail, but two of them that stand out is Musser Lane, and the walkway over here has come up in different council meetings or work sessions.
I think as far as the council retreat, I don't know, after, based on how we handled it this year, I know it's different than we wanted to handle it.
Sure.
But we did it okay, I think. People still were informed as to,
Yeah.
operations and things like that. And I just don't know if we need to spend $6,000 on a retreat.
It is a lot of money. We could look at some options related to that. Dawn and I met with the administrator of DCED that helped. It was new people, but they helped sort of manage the strategic planning process, who we got the grant from. And they're looking, what's the next step for Bellefonte, and so we need to have maybe even just a work session and fine-tune our goals. What do we want to do next? I know we took care of the LERTA ordinance draft. There's a couple other things we talked about, increasing application fees and things like that. But there may be some other ones that a simple work session could take care of.
I do have one question that came up, thoughts this afternoon. I don't know where in the budget and if it would have an increased cost, but Alyssa and I were going back and forth this afternoon, and she said there are some things on the website that can't be put on because they're too large, and I'm wondering if that's something that we would need to increase the internet website budget so that we could put those larger size documents onto the website, so we would be more transparent for the community.
It's There probably is a cost there. I mean, there's probably a limitation on how many bits of storage or whatever it's
Yeah,
called.
she told me that there's one item that
Yes.
she was not able to put in for our packet today.
Yes.
And as a result of that, it's not there. And I'm thinking there may be generally throughout the website other things. Particularly, I think once we get the HARB guidelines, there's going to be a lot of pictures and things like that. And I think that's going to take up a lot of space.
My understanding, I thought she said she could post it, like for people to view it, but it couldn't be
Right.
downloaded or something.
She says she couldn't get it onto the website itself. But I think the bigger problem is going to come once we get that grant, that $12,000 some odd dollar grant we got to craft the HARB design guidelines. There's going to be lots and lots of pictures. There's going to take lots and lots of space. And I'm wondering if it would be good to put that up on the website for the public.
Sure.
But do we have the space or the capacity to do that with our current website? And then,
We can certainly look into that.
Any other discussions on the budget? If not, we're going to move forward to climate sustainability survey. So we did receive the 4 letters that came in the packet. And those are pretty similar with each other. And then we have the Bellefonte Climate Sustainability Survey. Joanne, you want to go over that a little bit? There are some areas that, if you look through it, if you have a question about any of the items that are under, we can discuss those as well.
yeah. So we reconvened the EAB in August, I think, and I started meeting with the 4 designated nonprofits, 2 business-related, 2 community-related. And they helped us revamp. They added things that we didn't have, and we tweaked and went around several times. We ended up with this 12-page survey. And it's designed to be mailed out just as a regular one, which is what you saw in the Word file. Then the one that was attached with the letters is one that people could, if they don't want to go to like a Survey Monkey, they could pull it down, fill it out on their computer, and mail it in. Makes it easier for who's ever entering the data to read, because they've typed it in instead of trying to read handwriting. And the third, which we haven't done yet, is to create basically a Survey Monkey version. The nice advantage of that one is that once the person responds that we've got the data already entered, we don't have to have a second person go back and enter the data. But we didn't want to do that until we got permission to go ahead with that, because that's going to take a little bit of time to transfer this from this format into a Survey Monkey format. The 4 groups all agreed to distribute the survey, some of them by just making an announcement and linking the people to what will be on our website. Others are actually going to have paper copies. We did not tell them how they were supposed to do it. They did what they felt they could do best. And it is designed to find out where the people are coming from, so that if we get people from outside the borough, we can eliminate those responses, because we really wanted to just look at Bellefonte residents. We didn't know if certain parts of the town would like one thing and other parts would like something else, which is why we have the map and those questions. And then it goes in things that what individuals can do, what the borough they would like them to do, and what they would like the businesses or people in general to do. Some of the questions are related to what they already do and what they would like to do. And when we could look at those, and once we see that, then we can look, is there something educational we can provide them to help them reach their personal goals? So that's how the survey was designed. Want to add anything to that?
I think you pretty well covered it. We're just trying to get information about what people in the community are interested in finding out about. What are people already doing? What are they interested in doing? What are they interested in finding out in terms of more information or informational programs? And Joanne and I have both worked with contacting potential program presenters based on the topics at hand. But right now, it's just getting information from the community at large about what people are interested in doing and ways that, you know, it cuts down on costs, household costs, waste. You know, everybody's household is individual and different, and what works for one person just doesn't for somebody else. So it's all about making informed choices.
Any other questions?
Well, this began as something that we were going to send out to Bellefonte residents.
The plan,
Sounds like it's expanded.
the plan goes to residents, that what the borough had agreed to, if we get the funds for it, is to randomly select 75 households within the borough, so that's residential. We'll mail those to them with a mail back
Right, that's
envelope.
what we had discussed initially.
Right.
If I remember.
In addition to that, we had also decided to ask the businesses and these nonprofits if they would be willing to help us expand it beyond the 75 by distributing them in however they felt most comfortable. And that's what these 4 letters are saying, how they feel most comfortable in assisting with us. And all 4 of them immediately agreed that they thought for the businesses and for the residents that this would be quite helpful.
How are you deciding which 75 households get
It's
the,
randomly selected. Barbie has the list of all of the households in Bellefonte through the utility bills. She generates a random number generator and then goes down to house number 3, house number 72, house number 50, and then we'll send letters out to that. That's the way we did it when we crafted the climate action plan in 2020.
I thought I had heard at one point, and maybe I misunderstood, that the $300 to mail out was being donated by somebody that you were working with, that we weren't going to go back to ask the council for this. Was that something that was originally thought about, or?
There was an offer from a private individual, but there is actually, in my opinion, funding available that is not taxpayer-based in the bulk water budget. The line item specifically for the water that we sell to Niagara Bottling, which turns around and sends that water out of here in single-use plastic bottles. Year-to-date, the revenue that we've received from that is $105,235. If the borough's portion of that, which at this point is 50% because of the agreement with the Water Authority, would be $52,618. So if we allocate 1% of the borough's portion of the Niagara bulk water revenue, that would give us $526 to work with. It's not taxpayer-based, it's there.
I think mailing it out to residents is what we talked about, if I remember correctly. I think it sounds like now it may go out to non-residents, which I don't think, wait, I'm not finished. I know where you're coming from. I think if it's being handed out by business owners downtown to people who may be walking through, we're talking about thousands of visitors wanting to come to Bellefonte and walk through downtown where these businesses are. You're going to be giving it to people who are outside of our government jurisdiction here that are going to fill this out. I'm okay, and I think we all were okay with this survey going out to our randomly selected 75 residents to collect all this information, which we all would love to see. But I don't understand question 3. Why is it important? I mean, if we're mailing it out to residents, why do we need to know what district in the borough they live in? They're a borough resident. We're trying to gather that information from borough residents, which I think is important.
We're also trying to get information from business owners and operators. So if you look at that breakdown of the map provided, it's looking at residents, area businesses, whether or not they live here. It even says I don't live in Bellefonte or I don't run a business here. We're trying to break it down as specifically as possible so we're getting both input from both residents and commercial business operators in the borough.
And if they check off that box, I don't live in and I don't own or run a business within Bellefonte, their data will be kicked out. We're trying to make sure that what you're concerned about doesn't happen. But we can't guarantee when you
Okay.
send out a
I
survey.
just think we could eliminate handing one to someone who doesn't live or work in the borough that we don't need to pay for or have someone donate money to. That's all. That's all I was
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Let's
We're not
just-
sending out-
Let's keep it with mailing it out to the 75 residents.
That's what we're
or
doing.
business
That's
owners
our
and get it-
portion
yeah.
of the cost and putting it on the website.
Okay.
Just curious too, when does the next borough newsletter go out?
May.
And
Spring, be in the spring.
when is your target to get this information?
We'd like to send this out in January, after the holidays.
Because what I was thinking is, if you put it in the newsletter with a link or information about it, and say if somebody wants to fill out a paper copy, ask them to come downtown and get a copy, or information on how to get to the survey in there, you would reach all the residents, not just the 75 that you're talking about. So is there a hurry to get it out, like in January? Just a
Yeah.
question.
Shouldn't be, right?
No,
As
although
long as we
if we get
gather
it
the
out in the
as long as we
winter,
gather the
then we have the
information.
time when things are slow to actually get the data back and get data crunch. In the spring, things get kind of hectic. And I think just timing wise, personally, I think about, if that's what you all end up wanting to do and make a much larger newsletter, so be it.
Oh, no, I wasn't talking about putting the whole survey in there. I was saying, access our
Here's our
survey
Here's
on
where
our
you can pick one
website.
up if you want to fill one out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it reaches all Bellefonte
The other
people who get the
the only
newsletter.
concern I have that is that we send out this newsletter to everybody. How many people actually read it? Whereas if you send out something specifically to specific people.
And
more
you have
likely-
run that risk with the 75 letters you send out.
If if this starts in January, what's the end date? Because,
March is what I was thinking.
so, yeah, so with businesses, and, you get too many people involved because you're gonna go business, that just, like Kent has brought up, we're kind of getting away from just the 75 residents. And we're getting into the business and some other entities in Bellefonte. And then you keep getting these things after March, or who's controlling when that's coming in, or when do you just say, it's done?
Put a deadline on it.
Put a deadline on it.
And your Survey Monkey can shut down on a certain date also.
Yeah.
Right.
You put a deadline on it,
So
so.
the random 75
Yeah.
mailers are just to randomly survey the community. The idea is to also have this posted on the website so that the way multiple other things are posted on the website, anybody can log in, click on it, fill it out, the information is there. Certainly, there is a time frame to this in terms of, it's not going to go on forever. But we're trying to reach as many households and businesses in the borough as possible.
When we did the climate action plan in 2020, we only surveyed residents. We had a representative of the business community on the advisory board, but that wasn't actually getting information, detailed information from the businesses. This time, we're trying to get that information as well. But we didn't want to add the additional cost, and we thought that the nonprofits that have to deal with the businesses, the chamber and DBI, would have better access and would be willing to let their members know about it so that they could fill it out.
How many newsletters do we send out roughly? What'd you say?
So about 3,000, I think, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Can we send the newsletter out earlier?
We always say that, but by the time we get all
Send it out
the,
earlier?
well, by the time we get all the articles and whatnot, and, it seems like it gets into,
How few can we send it out
Early spring.
earlier?
Just curious, has everybody read this document at the table?
Where is that?
It's on the website.
This is the action plan that we approved in
No, I haven't.
2020. And if you look at page 12, goals for 2025. Bellefonte will create an environmental advisory review board. I think that's what you've accomplished.
Yes,
Bellefonte will install solar energy on municipal buildings such that 50% of the energy is renewably sourced. This is to be done by 2025. This is what we're approving, or trying to approve. This is goals. I just want to make sure everybody's read this and know what's trying to be accomplished here and where the funding is going to come from to accomplish these goals.
In response to the one that you just read, you know, we may use and utilize the panels, but what do we do with them after they're expired?
Well, I don't know that. I'm just reading the
Right,
goals
but
of
I mean, that's something to think
2025.
about too. California's having a huge problem
Bellefonte
right
will
now.
install one electric vehicle charging unit each for electric vehicle police and public works vehicles. I don't know that if we ordered today that we would have a vehicle by 2025 and charging stations to charge them.
I think the goals are one thing.
Yeah, that's right.
I've said this a lot of times. Bellefonte can only do what Bellefonte can afford. And we can't go outside that boundary, because if we do, you're gonna suffer more from it, I think. So we, you know, even though these goals get set for certain years, infrastructure isn't there. As you said, California's having issues. This could push the same thing on development. I agree with putting chargers in residential areas.
Well, like you said, these are goals. These
I know, but
don't
it's
necessarily
still,
mean they're going to happen.
you still have to
But
look
this
at
is
the
what
dollars and where the dollars
we're trying
come.
to make happen. Is that correct?
Well, I partially agree with that, but I think the climate action plan is, what you're talking about, what you just mentioned, putting solar panels on municipal buildings does not appear anywhere in this survey. This survey is
But
based
I'm
for
looking at the
households.
goals. This is what's a goal listed in
That's what we submitted.
in the document. I'm just saying.
Well, I understand that, Doug,
if
but
you've
that's
read
not
it-
what we're talking about in
I
the
know
survey.
we're talking about a survey to complete these goals or to achieve these goals.
To work towards
Towards-
those.
That's right, yeah. But I want to make sure everybody
And-
knows the goals that we're trying to achieve. And if you haven't read this whole document, are you willing to use dehumidified water from your dehumidifier in your washing machine to wash your clothes?
If it comes out of the air you're breathing, it's okay to wash your towels in it. Seriously.
That's
I mean,
fine.
these are all individual choices that people may or may not make, and some of it sounds completely wackadoodle, and
It
that's
is
fine.
wackadoodle, some
Well,
of
then,
it.
don't do it.
Yeah.
It's a choice.
I've used that kind of water for washing, but we don't run it in the humidifier all the time.
Well,
you know.
that's fine.
Well, I think we all support the passion of
Yeah.
what you're trying to say, Deb, for sure, I do. I mean, just saying what we have to decide, and it truly is what we decide. You know, we have to decide if this is what the people who elected us into these positions want us to do, that's all. And what is the purpose or goal of this survey by reaching, you know, like, just for example, that question about people who don't live or own a business in Bellefonte, well, I don't really want to survey them. You know, as a Bellefonte Borough, well, we can limit that by sending it out, like Rita said, which was a great idea, just put it out with the newsletter, and if people want to answer the questions and people want to say that they use water for those things, then they can. But what's the goal of the survey? To gather that information and then what?
To get the information from the businesses as well as the residents. And going back to the climate action plan, if there's something in there that nobody in the community wants to do, then we get rid of that. If there's something in here that they really want to do that isn't in it, we could add that to the plan. But until we have the input from the businesses.
So it is
and
important then to know what the goals of that action plan are before we agree to send out the survey. Simply said, right? Regardless of who wants to use water to do what, but we should all understand what's in that plan before we agree to send out the survey. Agreed? Can we agree on common ground that before we send the survey out, I think we all know the survey has an end goal to it, which is those goals possibly listed, we should let people know what we're voting for or what we're supporting. That's all,
I think
right?
all we're doing, Kent, is the survey is to pull out the information
Right.
from the residents. That's how we're gonna find out what they're interested in.
who's interested in it,
It has
right.
nothing to do so much with what Doug has in his hand. It's gonna touch on some of those items maybe, but I don't know when, and, you know, and again, to me, it's about the cost, and if Bellefonte's, you know, we can't do some of the things that our neighbors are doing, we just don't have that kind of income coming in.
Well, eventually the survey is gonna come to us to vote on. I mean, that's what that's what our goal is here, to try
Well,
to get this thing out and get it moving.
The goal is to do that tonight, because that's on
Yeah, it's
the,
on
that's
the
on the
agenda.
Okay.
old business tonight.
Yeah.
But I'm looking, I kind of agree, why have something on here that you're just gonna throw away if somebody, I don't live in, I don't own or run a business in Bellefonte, why is that even on there?
It's on there so you can throw it away.
So you can throw it away. So
That
if
kind
somebody
of
gets
defeats
hold-
the
if-
sustainability, doesn't it? We're throwing paper away. What the heck?
Online, they feel like they want to be a part of it, they do it online. It's like, well, we see that that's not going to pertain to us, so we can
So,
kind of pull that one
say
away.
Chamber of Commerce
We're not
says they want
mailing
to
that
hand
to
it
them.
out at the train station. Somebody comes in who lives in New York City and fills this out.
But that's not who it's for, Joanne.
Wait,
You
wait
even
a minute,
said
let me
that 10
finish,
minutes
let me
ago.
finish.
I don't want to finish it. Is this for Bellefonte or isn't it?
It is for
Well,
Bellefonte.
then that's what
That
we should be looking
particular
at.
question, if they fill it out, says, you shouldn't be in this survey at all. So that every single response that they give gets kicked out. We don't look at it at all, but you have to have that in there in order to do that. Otherwise, you don't know that the New York City person.
What if they don't answer that question?
Yeah, if they don't answer that, you don't know anyway.
Why not just have the
fake
businesses
news.
ask people where they're from before they give them the survey? That's
We
what I would do.
could, but when you have volunteers staffing an office, that may or may not happen.
To me, I think that should come off. I think that, you have another one on there, younger than 18. Why is that? That's under number 4, first question, younger than 18. There, the other questions that you're getting answered, I'm a homeowner, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a business owner, but I don't understand why you need a survey under 18.
The age question, we can do that.
Because we have
But we-
youth in our community that are
Very-
invested in our community and
Yeah.
interested in this also.
That same youth could pick up and
So-
move with their parents if they move out of town, so that's the type of thing I think you get into.
They don't have to live there here their entire lives to be interested in it and have concerns and want to
thought it
learn
was-
more.
I just thought it was strange. How young is it gonna go?
So maybe do the mailing and then, like Rita suggested, just in the newsletter, just put a link and explain what this is for. And you get, the link would take you to the survey.
Or here's where you can pick one up. That's not gonna lengthen the newsletter at all.
Because some of these may be kicked out and where people don't respond, you may end up with 25 responses out of 75.
When we did this in 2020, we had over 75% response.
Why can't we use that survey?
Because we did not go into as much depth in there, and we did not survey the businesses.
Well, shouldn't the business be answering it for their business?
There, if you look in section, on section 8 is for business and commercial property owners. Section 9 is for everybody. And then there's some questions in 10 through 20 that would be pertaining to businesses but not to residences. But rather than making it much longer and separating things out, we just put them in there and people, for example, on number 13, the second checkoff is workshops for plumbers and contractors and do-it-yourself homemakers, homeowners. That one would mostly be checked off by businesses if that is something they would like to see. It's not likely to be checked off by a normal resident or renter. But it's in there so that we can know. So we've got a group of business people that want to have information on this kind of activity so that we can provide the educational programs that they need. But without doing this, with these checkoffs, and we don't know that. So the first part is general knowledge, second part is what you already do, and then the final part is what educational programs you need or want.
So for under number 7 residents, it said, I would appreciate if our local business would work to reduce their carbon footprints. I think that's also under business,
Yes,
similar to that.
yes.
So
There are
why-
some of them, they're separate, and some of them are similar. But we decided, the EAB and the nonprofits decided it would be best if we separate these out, so that in terms of answering questions, it made it quicker for people who are businesses that, I know I answered this one, but I skipped the next section. Because there's some things in each of them that the other is not appropriate for. And the total time it takes is about 9 minutes, according to the survey, which is, usually they say keep it under 10, and we kept it under 10 minutes.
And one question, number 5, might answer it all. We would like to know your thoughts on sustainability and climate change for Bellefonte. Your responses here will help us understand how important this issue is of sustainability in our community. What did the 75 people say the last time?
Hold on a second, I can give you that answer, but I have to look it up.
Well, it must be in your favor.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I just don't think the goals are achievable in the climate action plan at this time. It goes out to beyond my lifetime. Most of us here, actually. And we've assessed our buildings, I think, for solar panels, and do we qualify
Well, it's.
to meet the demands or the goals of this? It says, I forget what it is, the percentage that the panels, we want to produce some percentage of power
I'd have to check.
based on how many panels we can put on. I don't think it's possible. We don't have the area to do it.
I think you have to put them on the roof if it's gonna support this building.
I don't even think then we have the capacity.
Any other comments on the,
50% of the homes and businesses will have solar panels or will purchase solar or wind energy. And that's in 2035, I think. 80% of Bellefonte's electricity mix will be renewable. 100% of heating fuel driven or from fossil fuel, which is oil, natural gas, or propane, will be switched to low carbon fuel source and or electric heat. That's what we're agreeing to. The goals we're agreeing to here.
Would it be mandated or voluntary?
It could be, but
Actually,
these are goals, they're not.
No, it can't be. There was legislation passed last year that prohibits any municipality from restricting access to a customer's choice of fuel.
Well, between now and 2035, anything could change.
Well, yeah, lots of things are going to change.
Yeah, I'm just pointing out the goals of this. That's all I'm doing. If
to me, they put too much, they put the cart in front of the horse. You know, again, the president, first thing he did, shut down a gas line.
well, that has nothing to do
Well,
with
it does,
this. No.
because he's still got, and there's also talk about, you know, no more drilling. And that
That's,
keeps moving out, and to me, I think it's a risk to everybody to give up fossil fuels.
I think you're off base on that, Randy. This is trying to achieve a climate action plan with reasonable goals.
Yeah, and that's
And
what
the
I'm saying.
survey is to
My
find
opinion is
out
you still have
if
to have
we're
a mix of
interested.
fossil fuels in there.
I just want to make sure everybody understands the goals that we're trying to achieve in this climate action plan. The survey is fine. I agree with putting it in a newsletter, but if you read this carefully, there's some lofty goals in here for us to achieve. I think a lot of things will change between now and then.
My thought too was, what if this is mandated? What if this is expected of all residents? That was a concern to me.
As Deb said, it is not at this time. But that,
Like you said,
Yeah.
not at this time.
I still think Bellefonte can only do so much. If that's all we're looking at is Bellefonte, we can only do so much, we can only afford so much. There's so much things, so many things going on around the world. This is supposed to be a global thing happening, and it's not.
global unless we participate.
I understand.
And
I'm not saying we
that's-
don't participate, I'm just saying, I agree with what you're saying. To that, and I don't have an issue with the survey. I like to see what that says. I don't think the survey drives what you're looking at. This is just getting the information of
I think
what
if you
people
look
might
at the goals in this for 20, it is completing the survey to see what can be accomplished. So the survey is part of the process.
Then we may have to go back and
get
look at the
this.
climate action
And
plan.
that's generally how things work
Yeah.
with plans. Plans are plans, they're not set in stone forever. You need to get started somewhere, and if we find out what the community really wants and finds out that there needs to be tweaks to the plan, so be it.
I agree, but I do like Rita's idea of including it in the newsletter, and I don't see an urgency to have it completed anytime.
Well, then maybe what we ought to look at, if we're gonna do something like that, maybe we look at a quarterly newsletter, so it's just something smaller.
Well, that's
What
an
might be
idea.
happening in a couple of months.
Yeah.
And then maybe we do 3 of them.
What's the
in a
cost,
year.
what's
Yeah,
the
that's
cost of
true.
doing one newsletter every year for sending out 3,000?
I'd have to double check with the office staff, but postage would be the biggest, and then getting the newsletter printed has a
All right,
cost.
so you're
too.
if you're doing it quarterly, you're quadrupling that
Yeah.
cost.
It's not cheap, you know.
Right.
It's-
What's your other choice? Wait till spring and send it
Well,
out?
I think our other, going along with that too, is to set up an email newsletter for residents.
Yeah.
And not everyone would sign up, but you either get an email newsletter or you get one in your mailbox. And I think that would help a lot of this.
My concern of doing that with this survey is that what you're doing is disenfranchising our lower income residents who cannot afford internet access, and we do have them here in
Right, but I said we would also send out hard copies to anyone that did not sign up for the email newsletter.
That would be a good
Logistically,
idea.
how would that work?
We'd have to figure all that out. I don't have the
Right,
answers
right,
tonight.
but-
Logistically, I can't keep track of that just for the Historic Society, so.
Yeah,
Right.
And we only send to like 800.
Okay.
I've done that before, and it was a nightmare.
It is a logistical problem, but it's not impossible by any means.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, if there's not, we're going to end the meeting, the work session meeting, and move into executive session where we have some personnel and evaluations and agreement issues to talk about. I don't know if we'll get that all done. We have about, looks like almost a half hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Let's do it. Now, that'll be nice.
Call the business meeting to order for Bellefonte Borough Council. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Borough Council meeting. We'll do our best to start the council meetings on time and to end on time. Due to the room acoustics, please speak up when speaking so that people can hear what you're saying. And all comments and reports should be kept to 3 minutes maximum. With that said, we will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Bernier. Here. Mr. Brackbill.
Here.
Ms. Cleaton. Here. Ms. Dan.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Present.
Ms. McKean.
Here.
Ms. Purnell.
Here.
Ms. Sedgwick.
Here.
Ms. Tosti Vasey.
I'm here.
Mayor Johnson.
Here.
Okay, next item is additions to the council meeting agenda. In accordance with Act 65 of 21, and if a matter is not on the agenda, council may take official action on it with the following exceptions. Council can act on matters related to potential and real emergencies. Council may add a matter of agency business to its agenda through a majority vote. Council must state the reason why the action item is being added to the agenda, and then council will vote on that action item.
I have one. The meeting minutes of November 7th state, Center County MPO Public Participation Plan, public comment period ends December 6, 2022. Council may consider submitting comments. This item is scheduled for the next session. This was not placed on tonight's work session, and since the public comment period ends one day after our next meeting, this would not give us enough time to discuss this and get in written comments in a timely fashion. Therefore, I move to add this to the old business section for conversation and possible motion at tonight's meeting.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Johnson, motion by Tosti Vasey. We won't have any discussion. We'll just go into all those in favor of adding the MPO to the current old business. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. So that will be the end.
I have a clarification. Under communications, the first item regarding signage over near the Gamble Mill for a business, and it gives the dates for pop-up events. That request really is more about using the portion of Dunlap Street in front of the Gamble Mill for those same days. The signage went through zoning. It was also a request, but that's been addressed. And what really the request really is about using the 4 or 5 parking spaces and Dunlap Street, closing it off for a little special event right there in that spot on the dates that are given on the agenda. So I just wanted to clarify, that's the action, that's really the person is requesting council approval for.
Anything else for the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll. Gosh, I think I messed up here. Under communications,
Public comment?
I didn't see the- oh, there you go. Gotta find the right paper here. Yeah, under public comment, are there any public comment this evening? Come forward, give your name and address.
My name's Doug Barnett, and I live in Bellefonte at 956 Woodland Drive. And I would just like to thank Randy Brackbill and also our mayor, Mr. Johnson, for attending the Logan fundraiser on the 19th of November and helping to draw the tickets. Thank you. I'm a life member, and we really appreciate you guys coming up and doing that. Thank you.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Every time we pulled out a ticket, it was a winner.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other public comment this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to communications. So we have a request for pop-up. Mr. Stewart just spoke to this. I'll let you go
Yes.
ahead and.
Yes, this is the item that I was referring to. It's worded as approval for signage for pop-up events, May 28th, June 25th, July 30th, August 27th, and September 24th. This is the space right in front of the Gamble Mill that used to be Dunlap Street, and of course, it's a dead end. The owner of the retail business that is situated in the Gamble Mill is asking not only to have the signage up, but more importantly, to close off that section of the street on these days for a little pop-up special event.
Okay. We have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Doug Johnson. Second by Clayton.
I would just say make it conditional upon the Gamble Mill being okay with the closure, the owners of the Gamble Mill. They're the only other folks that would be involved, but I think that would be a good condition.
I think also with the food vendors, according to our ordinance, it has to be 150 feet. It is not if they have food vendors there, so I think that needs to be, we need to decide if the ordinance gets enforced, if we make exceptions, or how that works.
I think that's a good point. Obviously, the Gamble Mill has a restaurant. I would say if they're okay with it, they're probably, and then of course across the street is Maria's, so they might be, depending on the measurements, might be close, but you could make it that they have to get approval of anybody that's within the 150-foot rule, or the ordinance does allow a waiver if the special event is approved.
What is the special event?
They're having, it's called a pop-up event where they would have music or something outdoors for that particular, on those particular days.
Do we send them correspondence routes telling them that we're okay with this event? Do they get something from us?
Yes,
after tonight?
after tonight, yes.
Can we put something in there, or are you
Yes.
talking about we just don't want food vendors to show up?
No, they asked.
They would,
one
yeah,
of the
we would just put it in
things-
there as a reminder, you can't have food vendors because you're too close to a,
Well, they asked for food vendors.
they
so
did?
We'd have to pretty much say no.
looking at it
That's,
here, I'm trying to find.
It's in, that's what it wasn't clear.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you said that.
Original motion, adding what you all talked about, one more thing as well. I want to conditional upon all entities at the Gamble Mill agreeing to this. And if Maria's is within 150 feet, them as well. Plus, giving us the exact times this is going to be happening. Because right now, there's nothing in that letter saying just the dates. And so are we doing it 24 hours, or are we only doing it 2 hours?
Good point.
Have we started the applications yet for this?
No, we have not.
We have not. Okay, thank you.
That new application will start in January.
That's what we said,
So right
January.
now, we have a motion to amend. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
So, motion to amend. Second, Sean. Okay. We have discussion on the amendment. I think I'd like to just add my 2 cents here is if we could table it and do our own checks on how the Gamble Mill feels about it, or Maria feels about it, and then bring it back and discuss it again. We have time. We have lots of time. So rather than getting businesses upset about, this happening, go to them first and get a feel for how they feel about it, because it does affect the ordinance. And I agree that it could create other issues down the line somewhere. My 2 cents.
Until we get that information. It's not a permanent table.
No, it'll be, yeah, right. So we'll table this on condition with, meeting with the Gamble Mill and Maria's for approval to have food vendors outside their business, or near their businesses, within 150 feet, and go from there. Does that work? So if it comes back the next meeting, fine. If
Yeah.
it comes back
Sure.
Thank you.
weeks after, that's fine.
Okay.
All right?
You have to have a second.
I'll second it. So we have a table by trustee Basie. Second by Doug Johnson. Okay, all those in favor of the table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It's tabled. Okay, what's next?
Next item is just some information. The Society of Civil Engineers does an annual report on the Pennsylvania infrastructure conditions, and it's there just as an FYI. It might be something we could use for grant applications at some point.
I have a request. I tried, there was a thing in there that said there was a link to the actual report.
Okay.
It wasn't active. Can
Okay.
you email us the link?
We'll do our best on that.
Any other questions on? Tell me that, what was that again?
The link didn't-
There's a link in the PDF file about the actual report card. It gives more details than what was in the letter. I tried clicking on it,
Oh,
and it
okay.
didn't work.
Okay. Gotcha.
Read the next one. There's an invitation to the public session of the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. This meeting will be in State College on November 28th in State College Borough Chambers, and it starts at 4 p.m. That's all I have.
Do you have anything you want to add on this? 'Cause I know you
This has been in
submitted
the
it.
planning work since before COVID started. It was supposed to have happened in May of 2020. Obviously, that didn't happen. And so the commissioners are coming here to State College. They move them around the state. Usually it's in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. They finally agreed to come to the central part of Pennsylvania to do their meeting. They're doing some executive session stuff in the morning, and then in the afternoon, there will be doing a public presentation on the current status of the Pennsylvania Human Relations Act, issues in general concern across the state, and then they're going to open it up for public comments about concerns people may or may not have about treatment of all the different protected classes in housing, public accommodations, employment, and commercial property, which are the 4 areas that are covered under the Human Relations Act and the Educational Equity Act, as I think is what the other one is called.
Any other questions on that?
And the public is invited, not just council members. But if you are coming, they would like, you can tell me or contact Brittany Mellinger at PHRC. The commissioners want to have a general idea of how many people are coming. It's not to say who is coming exactly, just a general number.
Thank you. Next.
Next item is the Campus and Community Sustainability Expo through Penn State University. It will be held December 7th at State College Borough Building, and that is at 5 to 7 p.m. I believe they'll have our report on the angled spaces and then on the T. Is that your understanding?
I don't know if it's going to be finished or not by then, Ralph, but
Okay.
it's supposed to be, but
It's-
I haven't heard from
Okay.
our contact.
Yeah, and Lorna, I mean, these are the groups that normally do our small studies like that. We did meet with some folks early in the semester, a professor that would head up this study with students involved. We're anticipating some kind of report that was pull in or back in angled street parking or angled spaces on High Street and Allegheny Street. If for some reason they don't have it, they'd have it in the spring. But I'd invite you to go if you can, see what different projects the students are doing. That's all I have.
Couldn't have said like 2 or 3 more words.
Sorry. I couldn't.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll go into the consent agenda. I'll call for a motion to remove the council meeting minutes of November 7th and also remove budget versus actual October 2022 and budget versus actual summary October 2022. Do you have a motion?
Motion to remove those or motion for the other two?
Motion to remove those items.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
McKean. Trustee Vacy, motion, McKean, second. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and I'll call for a motion to approve the treasurer's report and the voucher summary October 2022. I have a motion.
I'll make that motion, please.
I'll second for now.
No. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the treasurer's report for October 2022 and the voucher summary for October 2022, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, so I think, I saw this when I went over it in the weekend, and somehow there were duplicates for the budget versus actual summary. This is what was in the packet.
Okay.
So what we needed to add on that was the summary, actually the budget versus actual October
Okay.
22, is that correct?
And Alyssa sent that out this afternoon.
Right, so that came out, I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at it, but at least it gets it in there, so they can be discussed. Are there any discussions on those two items? Okay.
If you'd prefer to have it in the next packet, since people may not have had a chance to review it, we can do that.
She sent it to council today.
Well, I know, but maybe not everybody had a chance to review it.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can do that if she wants to, just add it in there as a old business or something.
Can we just do a straw poll? Did everybody read it? Did everybody get it and look at it?
I did not get a chance to look at it.
Okay, that answers your question.
Go ahead, yeah, go ahead and do that now.
Oh, okay, so we'll put that in the next packet. Okay.
So we won't approve that one this evening,
Yeah.
we'll approve it at the next meeting. That would be the
That's this.
actual,
Yes, actual October 2022.
okay, so we're gonna hold that to the first meeting in December?
Yes.
Okay, so, okay, then we can approve the, let's go through the borough minutes, had a few changes. I looked at it earlier, whenever it first came out. I made corrections under public comment. I added Ms. Bobby Barnett as a spokesperson from resident. On page 2 at the very bottom, the Tostavasi motioned and Barb Dan second. That had a different name in there when it came up, so that it was Barb Dan who made the second for that motion. On page 3, under consent agenda, Doug Johnson made a motion and Rita Purnell second. There was a different name in there for there. I didn't keep who I changed it. And then we had an executive session, and then Joanne had sent out additions to page 3. It says, under local businesses, local business will help with funding. Nothing in the initiative would have to be approved or come from HARB. Joanne added, which was on CNET, some questions regarding light pollution and bird migrations were raised. So that was the update on that. And then on page 4, there was just a spelling correction for Curtin Street. And that's the changes in the notes. That's pretty minor. So, do I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I'll make that motion, please.
I'll second. Dan?
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the amended minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. This will take us into reports.
Did we do the summary, the budget? Did we do that?
Did we not? No, we did not. Let's go back to that. I'll make or have a call for a motion to approve the budget versus actual summary, October 2022.
I thought we were waiting and holding those off till the next meeting.
That was the October.
That was the budget to actual October without the summary.
So the summary still needs to be approved.
Yes.
We moved the budget versus actual October 22 to the first meeting in
Yes.
December.
Actually, it was flipped. It was the summary that was in the original packet, and the details were not. Because when I opened the budget versus actual, it came up as the summary. And then when I opened the summary, it came up as the summary.
Okay.
Ralph, we'll just put them both.
We can put them both. You sure?
So there's going to be two more in there.
That's okay.
All right, so we're going to hold both.
Yes.
So we'll go ahead and go into reports. Yep. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Just a safety announcement from the Bellefonte Police Department with having our first measurable snowfall. Please take extra time to get where you're going. Please clear your car, your windshield from all obstructions, snow and ice, and also remove all snow and ice from the body of your vehicle. Going at speeds, what's on your car will fly off and can be dangerous to other motorists. Not clearing ice and snow off your vehicle is a citable offense under the Pennsylvania Motor Vehicle Code. So if we get some more weather, please take your time and clear your car off.
Thank you. There's also a report for animal control in October under the mayor's. If nothing on that, we'll move on to Chief Weaver.
Proclamation.
I do have a proclamation.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. So I saw two things, and that's right.
A proclamation of the Borough of Bellefonte, Center County, Pennsylvania, proclaiming November 26, 2022 as Small Business Saturday. Whereas the Borough of Bellefonte recognizes the importance of small business as the glue that holds communities together. Nationwide, small businesses create more than 2/3 of the net new jobs over the past 2 decades. And whereas advocacy groups and public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. And whereas one of Bellefonte's great assets is its unique array of locally owned and operated independent businesses, which are part of the fabric of the community. And whereas local business owners and operators invest in Bellefonte and contribute to the local economy, offer jobs for residents, engage in civic concerns, support local initiatives, and are essential to our success and community. And whereas support of these businesses is critical to maintain a socially, environmentally, and financially sustainable and vibrant community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Buddy Johnson, Mayor of Bellefonte Borough, do hereby proclaim November 26, 2022 as Small Business Saturday in Bellefonte and encourage all to support local business by buying locally on November 26th and throughout the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Police reports.
I have one correction. Two corrections. If you go to the page that has total calls, it's the second to the last page. third to the last page of the report. Under DUI, there should be 3 instead of 1. And under missing person, there should be 2 instead of 1, which will make the next page grand total of calls 490, not 487. Are there any questions about any of the report?
Yeah, Chief, one, I think this came up before. On this third item, monthly statistics from 10/1 to 10/31, the center column, those numbers seem to be offline as to the category that's addressing it. I think we
Right
talked
here.
about, yeah.
Yeah, that was me with the typewriter changing them. There were a lot of, I was using a typewriter actually in whiteout.
So it
They were
didn't-
wrong on my records management system. I had to go through and
Okay.
change some of them.
All right, because that's, it's
This
been
one right
made
here,
up.
the last page?
Yep, that
Yeah.
one in the middle.
Yeah.
All right.
My typewriter skills aren't, we still have a typewriter actually. And if you're looking through, a lot of these calls might not mean anything to you. If you have any questions about them, like RFA's, request for assistance, and there's about 5 different types of requests for assistance. Like an RFA locate, request for assistance to locate, someone will call and say, I haven't heard from my grandfather or my grandmother or my child in, 5 days, so can you go out and do a health and welfare check on them? So just any questions, don't hesitate to ask.
Can we bring up what we discussed back in January when you did have one of these, just to remind the public, that if you do have a missing person, or you live alone, and you don't have family in the area, give the police department a call and give them your significant other contact information. So should something like what happened in December with a friend of mine who died, and nobody knew exactly who to contact. If you give that information to the police department, they will then be able to contact the family members and let them know.
Carry that as department information, and if the person has Alzheimer's or some kind of a medical issue, we'll put that information into our system. Known associates, friends, relatives. If you want to give the medical information, you can. You don't have to, but it's helpful to have.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chief. Next item is Gina.
Hello. I just wanted to make a quick follow-up to Mayor Johnson's Small Business Saturday proclamation. Between March of 2021 and October of 2022, we've had 23 businesses in the downtown Bellefonte Business District that have opened up just in that time period. And I actually have a couple of business permits waiting in the wings, so we should have a couple more before the end of 2022. So it's very exciting.
That is exciting, it's a big part of Bellefonte, and it's something to be real proud of, so
Yeah.
thanks for saying that.
And I don't know the exact number, but I remember in 2020, there was a record number of businesses that opened in the downtown despite it being an incredibly painful year for small businesses. I remember at DBI just having this business and this business open up, and I was amazed that in 2020 we had so many businesses open up their doors despite the pandemic. So we have a very strong and wonderful small business community in this town, and I'm very proud of all those business owners. So the only thing for you other than just the information I provided in my memo is the recommendations for approval for certificate of appropriateness of 134 East Bishop Street, which is the St. John's Rectory. They're doing a roof replacement there. 219 South Water Street, there's a new business going in there, and they're doing some exterior paint for the new business and also putting up 2 business signs.
To approve all these together?
Yep, that's
Okay.
fine.
So I'll call for a motion to approve 134 East Bishop Street, St. John's roof replacement, 219 South Water Street, exterior paint for new business, and 219 South Water Street, business sign. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, McKeon.
I'll second it, Clayton.
I have a motion and second. Discussion?
I have one question. The 219 South Water Street is exterior paint. Is the paint being done just on the wood, or what about the brick?
There is no wood, it's like a stucco. Yeah.
So, but they're not doing it on the brick, correct?
There isn't.
There isn't any brick.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I know that's been an issue before, so I just want to
Right,
make
this
sure.
isn't a brick building, so, yeah.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving 134 East Bishop Street, St. John's roof replacement, 219 South Water Street, exterior paint for new business, and 219 South Water Street, business sign, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay. And just, I guess for the public, and, you know, council already knows this, but for the public, we do have several appointments and reappointments this year, and I'll just mention the ones that kind of pertain to my department. We do have one seat in Harb that is up for reappointment, and that Harb member indicated that if there was somebody else that was interested, and that is a broker, real estate broker seat. So if anybody knows of a real estate broker that is interested in serving on the Bellefonte Harb, we would love to have them. The alternate position, which isn't as critical, but of course it's always nice to have an alternate, we do have one alternate that is also up for reappointment. For Rental Housing Appeals Board, we have 5 members. We have 2 vacancies right now, so we only have 3 members on that board, and all 3 are up for reappointment. I'm not sure right at this time whether all 3 are interested, so if you happen to know anybody or would like to reach out to me about more information about serving on the Rental Housing Appeals Board, just reach out and I can give you more information on that. Certainly, it's always great, again, to be able, we still have 2 vacancies on that board, in addition to the 3 that are coming up at the end of the year. Planning Commission, there are 2 seats that are up for reappointment at the end of this year. And the Zoning Hearing Board has 1 seat that's up for reappointment, so.
What's the difference between the Zoning Hearing Board and the Rental Appeals Board?
It's a good question. The Rental Appeals Board deals specifically with housing appeals that come through Center Region Code because they handle our rental and our housing permits. However, because we're not in COG, we don't use their appeals board. We have our own as part of our property maintenance code. I don't know the ins and outs of that, like if we could use theirs or, you know, how that works, but we have our own housing appeals board. So they handle specific appeals related to
codes enforcement.
To codes enforcement and
Okay.
rental housing, yeah.
Okay.
And we did actually have at least 1 housing appeals board in the time that I've worked for the borough, so it happens occasionally. Yeah.
Whereas the zoning is everything else.
Yeah, zoning is, you know, obviously borough specific, and it's everything else. It's if somebody is trying to appeal a zoning determination or is looking for a variance to a zoning ordinance, then they go to the zoning hearing board. So we have lots of reappointments coming up. So if you know people that would love to serve on some advisory boards, you just send them my way, and I will sweet talk them into serving on the boards for Bellefonte. So,
Thanks.
any questions for me?
No, were you going to give something about the Nittany Valley?
I can either now or at the time we do the reports.
I think we're going to hold that till maybe the next meeting, because you're going to work on updating
That's for the MPO.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Well, maybe,
But-
I don't know if you want to talk about Nittany Valley, you're welcome to.
Do you want me to do?
It's
Nittany
fine.
Valley? Okay. I did attend the Nittany Valley Joint Planning Commission meeting, and Mr. Johnson was there as well. We just went over several topics, which, you know, led to some good discussions. It was my first meeting, as I mentioned in my memo. I haven't gone yet, but I would think it makes sense for me to go to those as the zoning and planning administrator, so I plan on going to those from here on out. Just some of the topics we discussed was a fire study that is part of a grant from the county that the Nittany Valley Joint Authority is trying to gather data from its various fire companies for this grant. It's a free grant, so I don't know a whole lot about it because I just jumped into that meeting, but I'm working with Peter Butler at the county planning office for more information on that. And basically the townships are trying to work with their local fire companies to have them to complete that survey so that that data can be collected. And there's a little bit of trouble getting that. Bellefonte Borough fire companies did complete their survey, so go Bellefonte Borough. We also discussed broadband internet development, and just the county gave an update on where they're at with that, and they're making some announcements soon on that. So he was kind of cryptic. He couldn't give a lot of information, but just that they were advancing with that broadband internet development that they've been working on. And then the other topic was Ann Messner from the Center County MPO was at the Planning Commission meeting to give an update about the MPO long-range transportation plan. And we talked a little bit about that. One of the documents that she handed out was the Bellefonte Borough Municipal Workshop that we did in 2019. It was an issues and needs input summary. So I do have it here. What this document has, though, at this point is a lot of out-of-date information. It has council members that are no longer serving. It has projects that have either been completed or are in works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this document and update it, and then what I will do in the next council packet is include it in the council packet. Like, I'll have the updates in red. I won't delete anything, so you guys can review it and make sure I'm not missing anything, or if you just have any questions about anything. And then once we have that, I'll send it off to the county MPO with the updated project. So we have a new 2022, well, going into 2023 version of this rather than a April 2019 version. Yeah.
Mesner plans to attend the meeting in December.
Yes, she said she expressed an interest in attending that meeting in December, where this will be under new business in your packet.
December 5th meeting?
Yes.
Was it the first meeting?
It is the first meeting, I think, because they need this information sooner rather than later. And I think we said we'll just put it under new business, and it shouldn't take too long, because I'll do all the updates, and then if you guys just have questions, we can go through that, so.
So does this just pertain to Bellefonte, or does it pertain to their?
Only
the other-
Bellefonte.
Only Bellefonte.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a issues and needs input summary document specific to Bellefonte. And like I said, it was done in April of 2019.
It started then.
It started then, yeah. And I was on council then. I have my name's there under council, so.
I have a comment. It was refreshing to have you at the meeting.
Thank you.
And you asked great questions.
Thank you.
So, and thanks for volunteering to draft that letter with Peter.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's very important.
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
That was totally fine. Joked about going to my first meeting and, volunteering myself to do more work, but, I felt like I could offer my help in that area. So, yeah, thank you very much. I think my questions prolonged the meeting a little
No,
bit. But
no, they didn't. They were good questions. It was all been.
yeah. So, that's all.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Moves us to the manager's report.
It's there in your package. If you have any questions, let me know.
Any questions for Mr. Stewart?
Keep up the good work,
Well, thank you very much. It's a team effort. There are a lot of good people around me, so makes it very nice.
Okay, we'll move into the liaison reports. Does anybody have any questions on the reports that are shown as submitted?
Are you talking about all of them, or?
Any of them that we have a question on? is
I'd
fine.
have one on the Center County Airport Authority.
Okay, Ralph can answer that. No, go ahead. What is it?
It was, in the minutes, there was a discussion on installing EV charging stations, and you said that you were going to focus on level 1 charging.
Because.
That's,
There, go ahead.
that's the equivalent of hooking your car up to a 3-prong plug in your home, of which there is no state or federal funding. Level 2 charging is what we have here on our municipal lots.
Maybe that's it, but it's not the quick charger because.
It's not level 3.
It's not level 3.
It's not level 3, because people pull in, they're
So-
usually there, they catch
so,
a plane, they
yeah.
come back.
Right, I
3
think
to
a
4
level
days.
2 is appropriate.
Yeah.
Level 1, you do not want to
Yeah.
do.
Well, I don't think we've
Those-
agreed on anything yet.
Well, and those are draft minutes. so,
Okay,
yeah,
so that was just something that caught my eye.
Appreciated. Yes. They are looking at it, but we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Any other questions about?
Before we go down too
Submitted.
far, we have slides of the
that's-
swimming pool, the rendition, work that we'd like Dawn to show. We had a meeting here for the stakeholders sometime, a couple weeks ago, I guess it was. Dawn, do you want to tell us what you have there?
I'll just mention, the Nittany Valley Joint Rec Authority came in on November 3rd. We had a pretty full house that was here at the Borough Building from all the municipalities that are involved with Nittany Valley. Chris Hawk gave this presentation. We thought it would be worthwhile to put it on the screen just to go over. Ralph came, and I think Joanne also was here in attendance from the borough. But this is kind of what their plans are for Kepler Pool. One of the things that they brought up was where they are financially. Obviously, we're all aware that they received a couple grants. So their plan is to get this started as soon as possible. They would like to, their goal is to have something completed, the pool itself, by sometime mid-summer next year, to have a partial season. They know that that is kind of, it's going to be a challenge for them, but that's what they're going to be working for. But you can see the whole dressing rooms over here are all going to be renovated. The orientation of the pool itself is going to be an Olympic-style pool, and then they're going to have the kids area here. Some of the things that, these other things that they don't quite have the funding for right at this point would be this splash pad and some of these types of areas here that they want to include. But they're in the process of a funding campaign, a fundraising campaign right now, in addition to everything else they're going to do. I'll just go down through a couple of the other slides real quick for everybody. This just gives an overview of the layout. This is the parking lot, and you can see the orientation, whereas now it kind of comes up here and then there's an L like that, but this is the way it would be. We just thought that showing you some of what their hopeful designs are, how this will be, how much more room it's going to be. I think this is going to be fantastic. Based on what I heard, Joanne, Ralph, if you two want to add anything. This is a rock climbing, so they'll have these types of functions for the
I think
kids.
their goal is to open the main pool by sometime, as Dawn said, this summer, but some of the other features, like the kids' pool, would be a following season, is that right? And some of the pavilions and things like that, but, and maybe even the redoing.
The big slide there is not going, that's one of the extras.
Yeah, so there's things that are definites, and then there's the wants, like the slide and so forth, depending on how much money they raise.
And they're gonna look at additional some ADA safety issues for people with low vision.
Yeah.
That they hadn't thought of initially. They also, the big fancy pavilion that's on the edge, they need extra money to put in, but if they get that, they'll be able to rent out those spaces to the public, even without the pool in use. So that particular pavilion is what they said was a wish.
That was pretty much it. So just, we wanted council just to get an idea of what else is, going on at Governor's Park.
Yeah, thank you.
Just a real quickly on the Spring Creek Watershed Commission. The meeting last week was a long discussion about bylaws. If you'd like me to, I can give you a quick overview of the potential changes to the bylaws. Otherwise, you can just wait until the actual official letter comes from the commission. It's up to you.
If you have something, you want.
Yeah, I can tell generally what
Yeah.
the first change is right now, chair and vice chair have to be elected officials. They're going to change that to any member, whether it's an official, an alternate or an elected official. If all the municipalities agree, councils agree to this. Second, they're adding language to outline the duties of treasurer, which weren't in the bylaws originally. Got rid of some redundant stuff. Changed where advertising could be done, so kind of what we do here in the borough, rather than say it has to be the CDT, it says it will be a county paper of record with a watershed-wide circulation. So then actually reduce the cost for the watershed. Get rid of the section that says how you kick a member out of the commission. And further explain what the executive committee is made up of. And finally, clean up the order of business to actually put in what actually goes on during the meetings. So they're minor changes, except for the first one.
Those are all things that were in your PML overview, how to get rid of members. If you read through that whole thingy you gave us,
Yeah,
all those you mentioned are in that.
yeah. But this is for the watershed commission.
Yeah, I know. That's legislation is
Yeah,
taking place.
yeah.
Anything else? Then we'll move to current and old business.
Take a look here. You want me to get on some of that? See, break in with a towel.
Clean up for 9:04.
Let me grab a towel.
I'll get
rid of
it.
those water
Get out and keep
glasses.
it over the
Well, the
table.
next item is climate action plan.
There goes your microphone.
Let's jump down, we'll hold off on that. Let's go over the stuff that no actions required.
Well, the update I was gonna have on the traffic study is for Parkview and Zion Road, near that intersection. As you saw, or may have noticed, PennDOT collected the data and pulled up the counters that were across the road. We're waiting on the written report from PennDOT, so hopefully in a week or two, or maybe by the next meeting, we'll have that. That was a non-action item, just wanted to give you an update. Another item just for the public's awareness, the short-term rental ordinance public hearing is scheduled for Wednesday, November 30th at 5:30, and that meeting will be held at Lambert Hall off of Blanchard Street. It's on the Undine property.
Just on that while we're there, I will not, I'll be attending that through Zoom, so Mr. Johnson will be running that public meeting. So everybody's aware of that. I think I
Yes.
brought that up before.
Yes.
I'll be looking at.
No problem. Let me see here. Another informational item. the courtesy parking that we do between the holidays or Thanksgiving and New Year's. We had officially approved that back in February, but we wanted to remind the members of council and new members and so on how this works. It's always a little bit confusing. It's not totally free parking. It's 2 hours complimentary parking. So if a meter person goes around and finds the meter without time on it, they'll give you a courtesy parking ticket that says you have 2 hours on us. And then if they come around again after 2 hours, you would get a real parking ticket. It's really to try to have a balance between the shoppers, you know, the tenants and so on. We're trying to keep it so that there's turnover and during the heavy business hours of shopping and all that. But we just wanted to make sure you were aware that's how it works.
I think that's very reasonable.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've tried different things over the years, but this one we have stayed with. It's been around for a while. It seems to work pretty good. Another reminder is that the borough office is closed on Thanksgiving Day. So the folks who normally have refuse, garbage pickup on Thursday, that'll be done on Wednesday. We typically go back to Wednesday on a day like that. So other than that, everything's on schedule. Friday is a normal day for us. So Friday's operations are on schedule. You want, now that we got things
Yeah,
situated?
now we can go back up to the climate action plan. So I'll call for a motion and second to approve the $300 to mail the climate action plan survey and also send by email to random residents of Bellefonte.
So moved. I'll second it, Clayton.
Okay, motion by Toasty Vasey, second by Clayton. Discussion.
I have a question. Were we going to change this to wait until we send out the newsletter? Or is that a different motion?
I think you have to let the motion be voted on, and then we could bring that up as an option. Is that,
Or you could amend it.
or you could amend the motion that's on the floor right now, saying that you'd like to amend the motion. Well, I'll let Randy tell you.
Okay,
Well, I mean,
okay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, if what we're looking at doing is trying to pass this or, vote on it anyway to get consensus on this.
But you can amend the motion.
But you
Okay.
can amend it.
Right, my concern is that sending it out to only 75 people and even getting a great response like you had before is approximately 50 people. So I think by waiting until we send out the newsletter is a really good
Are
idea.
you talking about the spring newsletter? or-
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, yes.
So are you making that amendment?
I would like to, yes.
I call for a roll call vote.
Wait, we have
We need a second.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so discussions on the amendment.
Just to clarify, this would be including the survey with the newsletter, or also including an email link or a link so it could be filled out online?
I think it would be a link where, in my opinion, it should be a link that
Within
people
the
could do it
newsletter.
online, or they could contact the borough office and get a hard copy of it.
Would you, yes, would you consider mailing some out also at that time? Along with being in the newsletter with the website?
I mean, if someone requested to mail it?
Just randomly.
Selecting.
We won't save any money, it'll still cost us $300, but we will initially send out 75 randomly, along with what you've proposed. Would you consider doing that?
I'm sorry, Doug, I'm not
So
following.
we would go ahead and include it in the newsletter,
Right,
in
just
May with
the
the
im-
website.
Just the information, not the
Not the
actual-
form.
Not the form,
But there would be
okay.
a link there to go and participate in the
Right.
form. Would you consider adding the 75 that they've proposed to mail out?
Sending it out at the same time.
At the same time, it's in a newsletter, that we would randomly pick 75 people the way they were.
Oh, yes, I think that's an important part of
Would
it,
you-
sure.
So,
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was in your motion or not to.
I think the amendment was added to the existing.
Okay, I
motion.
just,
To the
I'm just
existing,
asking.
yes,
So,
yes.
so we will send out 75, and we would ask people to reply online, right? I'm just making.
Yes.
That'll
Yeah.
give it extra exposure.
Okay.
I think you'd
I
get.
think that's,
Okay.
yeah.
I got it.
Even if you sent the 75 out in January, that would be fine, because it will still follow through with other people calling in.
Well,
and
that's up to
wanting
this
something.
council.
Right, but I think, as it was said before, we do need to set a deadline that we need all the responses by a certain time. So I don't know what that is. It would be dependent on when the newsletter goes out and how much time we want to
agree.
give them.
We can wait till that time comes
can-
and pick a deadline
Okay.
for it once it goes out.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
So are you waiting to send out the 75 until the newsletter, or are you sending it out in June?
I would be fine with either way, but Randy had said just send those out in January. So I think that would be a committee decision.
And coordinating with the 4 nonprofits in town
Right.
as to their
Right.
contact.
We could do that.
And just.
And then just delay the closure of it until after the May.
Right,
After
right.
the
That way it
newsletter.
gives a lot of residents the opportunity to even
Okay.
know about this
Okay.
and participate if they want to, and I think that's an important part of it.
Good idea.
And you could be advertising on the website at the same time.
Yes,
Like
yes.
But
Yeah,
start-
I think we
Get your
could.
letters sent out,
Yeah.
and then you can start
Yeah.
collecting
And
data.
so if this passes, what we'll then do is get the Survey Monkey, or whatever online survey things, to make it really easy for people to fill it out
Yes,
and reduce our work at the back end.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's important, but we could even open that up early
Right.
in the year.
Right.
And just as a reminder in the newsletter, then I think I like that idea.
Okay.
And maybe that's when you end it is, but it has to be after the newsletter goes out.
And that's
And maybe,
not a specific date, right?
How about
I
time and
think it's
energy
easy.
for collecting the data?
pardon?
How do we collect the data? Who
Well,
counts up and
The
collects and
the data,
gathers?
it has three different ways. A pure paper one where people fill it out and send it back in. The second one is they can pull it down, that same one that's got fillable in spaces, and they fill it in, they type it, which makes it easier on the back end because we can read the handwriting. The third version is the survey mechanism, which we, or whatever we're going to be doing, that is currently created, we still have to do that yet, that allows you to fill it out online, gets all of the answers, and gives us a summary. What'll happen afterwards for the paper versions, whether it's through the online link or the fill it out, mail it back, is somebody, and I've agreed to be the data entry person. So it's not going to cost the borough to enter the data. But I want to reduce as much work as possible, so I'm hoping more people do the online
Where are we
versions.
entering the data?
Huh?
Where are we entering the data?
Into SurveyMonkey. And SurveyMonkey will give us a report back that we can then manipulate the data and say, residents want this, businesses want that, here are the number of people that want to have this particular educational program, here is what they want, has businesses they want to do, this is what residents in general want to do, and these
Which
are...
is good. Now, how are we going to make sure this all comes back from Bellefonte residents?
Right.
That one question that says, are you a
gonna
resident?
eliminate that?
And yes, if the person says, I'm not a resident and I'm not a business owner, their data are kicked out. But you have to have that question in there in order to do that.
Or just send it to residents.
Well, if you can't control who's picking up the survey.
You can't control who clicks on the
Who
link on
clicks
the
on.
website.
Right.
But it's very clear that it's for Bellefonte
Right.
residents and.
Right.
See, I don't really want to do the businesses, I just want the residents' response. Me.
Right.
But the businesses have a stake in this. Their behaviors and practices have the same effect as the
But
residential
most
businesses.
of them don't own the
practices.
building they're in.
It's not, does nothing to do with the building that they're in. It
Well,
has to
if
do
you
with.
start telling they have to do lead, silver, gold, and platinum stuff.
I don't know what you're talking about. We're talking about packaging and recycling.
Well, when
and-
you read the climate action plan.
We're talking about the survey, Doug, not the climate action plan
But
right now.
this is what is going to influence how the climate action plan is.
Right, that's the purpose of collecting the
Yeah,
data, right?
so that's why we're
I guess that's
collecting
what
the
we're
data.
asking. That's what we're
To see
asking.
how far we're going with the climate action plan. That's the way I understand it.
Right.
Am I wrong?
No, to some extent you're right, but the thing is specifically saying, residents, what do you want us to do to help you out? Businesses, what do you want us to do to help you out?
And my comment was. a
And
lot
there's some of
tenants
and
don't
some
want-
of them may want to do the lead. That's the questions about the building construction. Most people are not going to be dealing with that, and we understand that, but there may be some developers or businesses here in the borough that want that. There may be none, but we don't know that at this point.
Okay, we're getting into more argument than we are discussion with this, so that's. I think he was trying to make it clear
I
what we're
understand.
voting on.
I understand,
That's
and I think what we're doing is we're voting on a survey that will affect how we react or work with the climate action plan. That's about as simple as I can put it.
Is there any other cost hidden in this besides the $300? Like, is there staff time that's gonna be taken to do this?
There is.
There, so do we have an
Julie-
estimate on how much that
Julie
is?
Brooks has volunteered to create the Survey Monkey. Other than that, no.
I think Don has time invested, doesn't he?
For the survey?
No, for the whole climate action plan committee.
Yes.
In regards to this, it would just be the packaging of the 75.
Your question was what staff time is involved.
Right,
And there
right.
is more than Julie and Don. They have staff time, yes.
And we could review that all at the end of this as well, for more, if we want to try to cover those costs, or if we don't need to.
I'll call the question.
Question's been called, so I'm going to try to read this off as appropriate as I can. The motion would be to approve $300 to mail climate action plan survey to 75 random residents, and also by email or online, or you could order a hard copy from the borough to Bellefonte residents. That make sense?
Is there a deadline?
Not yet, we'll make that later.
Okay.
Year.
I thought we had to do the amendment first, which was the May newsletter.
Well, I just included it into the amendment.
Okay.
So the amendment part was to also send out with the spring newsletter online, and where they could call the borough for the hard copy. So if we're gonna mail out the 75, we're gonna put it in this newsletter, spring newsletter. It'll be online prior to that, and you can also order a hard copy starting in January, I guess, if you want to.
Would it be order or pick up? Would it be order or pick up a copy of the borough?
Pick up.
Pick up.
If they can. If they can't, we can mail it again. But that's where you're gonna have to get the extra cost.
We're not gonna exceed $300, right?
That's what we motioned to approve, was
Okay.
$300.
Okay.
So we'll see where that goes. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries with one nay.
Thank you.
Okay, then that moves us to the 2016-2019 PSA.
Yes.
You have information on that?
Dawn, I have Dawn noted here, but
Yeah.
it's a CDBG funding. Of course, we use the county as the conduit, and CEDACOG does some administration for us. So we're trying to use up some excess funds and move it into our administrative costs. You want to add anything to that, Dawn?
No, that sums it up, Ralph.
Okay.
So I have a motion and second to approve the amendment to the 219 contract. Is that the CEDACOG contract, or?
Is it CEDACOG or the county, Dawn?
It's CEDACOG, the contract is the CDBG contract.
Okay.
CEDACOG does the amendment.
Administration.
They're gonna amend the contract to move funding from the project over to administration so that then we can draw down the administrative funds into our account.
Okay.
So that's the motion, is motion and second to approve the amendment, CEDACOG to the 2019 contract. So I had a motion over here.
I had a motion, but I didn't hear a second.
I'm still waiting on it.
Sedgwick.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And last one, current and old business, would be the MPO. And Joanne, you brought that up. Did you have something different, or was?
It was,
This was the public participation plan, public meeting comments. At the last meeting, we said we were going to put it on the work session, but it didn't get put on the work session. The only way we could have it was to have the discussion now so that Ralph could write anything that we as council members would like to have added or concerned to it. And I just wanted to make sure that that happened since we said we were going to do that. So just a real quickie, I did attend the public hearing Tuesday of last week, and I made a suggestion that they add into the plan a mechanism when either council member or a municipal member or a member of the public feels there's something critical that's not being addressed, that they would have a way to get that information to the CMPO in a very clear and concrete method, and they said they would look into that. That was the only, that, and we talked about the wall collapse as well.
Okay, anything else to add? Anybody? So we can give this some thought, because I don't know if we really need to do a motion on this, or if we just need suggestions. Then you can send them in, and we can send them through.
I think maybe you should wait until Gina updates the MPO list for Bellefonte.
But the deadline for this is December 6th.
Yeah, this is something different, right? It's
Yes.
just how they're disseminating their information to the public.
And how the public is getting information to
Right,
them.
so this is like separate from specific.
Yeah, well, there's a long process to that. You can, I mean,
All we're doing is offering suggestions if people want to. That's it. All we're gonna do is offer suggestions if people want to.
anybody's invited for public comment to the MPO meeting, anybody. But to get it on the tip or the long-term plan, it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
But you certainly can voice your concerns or your wants.
So I don't think we need any motions here. I would look that up. The information should be in the packet, and if it's not, we can get it out to everybody. And again, I think,
Send out the plan is, again, because I'm sure it's way down in your emails.
Sure. I can send the plan back out. But you want me to send a letter to the MPO about what you just said, Joanne?
Yeah, and if you want to send that email that they sent to the three of us today about
Okay.
what they said about the wall as well, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Moving on to new business. While you're writing, covering the wall collapse on State Route 150 South Water Street. This occurred on Saturday, November 12th. A section of stone wall support wall collapsed. PennDOT has indicated they're reviewing repair options. The repair may take 2 months to complete, so we don't know what 2 months that is.
No,
But
no, they're still,
that's where we're at with it at this point, so.
yeah, they're doing core borings to see where bedrock is, how far down that is, and they're yet to devise their final plan. Might even be a temporary plan for now because the amosite plants are closing fairly soon. But we don't have, yeah, really this week, but
It's late.
that's the best we can say at this point.
Could we ask them, in the final permanent repair, to at least put a stone facade back up, since it faces the park? I think it would, in terms of our historic community, I think that would be very nice. Whether they can do that or not, I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that. If council feels strongly about it, wants to put in a motion, I can't say if there's gonna be additional costs. I can't say when that concrete wall would be poured, or if that's the plan at this point.
Because I would like to be able to keep the feeling of the park area with when you're looking out of the park across to the road to see that stone there, even if it's just smaller stones that are cemented up against it, sort of like with brick veneers, stone veneer. Kind of what we did down on the waterfront development area.
I think we need to see what PennDOT's gonna do before we even consider anything like that at this point. Okay. Next is authority and boards, commission vacancies. Staff is checking to see who's interested and not interested in being reappointed. Appointments and reappointments will be made January 3rd at the 2023 council meeting. There's no action requested for this.
Yes.
There are some issues, I think, with the civil service, because I'm seeing two different things. I sent you that
Yes,
email on
yes,
that, so
we're
we
gonna-
can talk
We'll
about
look into
that later.
We're just making sure the data is correct.
Yeah,
So
and
we're
there's, on the website, when I looked to see the terms on civil services, they're not there.
Okay.
That's not even listed under the items
Okay.
that we have chair people for.
All right.
Next, we have a RFP portable compost bagging machine bid open. So we need a motion to open that, correct?
No, just
Not a
Or is it
motion to
after?
open, we can just open it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we've only received one bid for the portable compost bagging machine. This is there's not too many companies that make this, but we did get 3 interested parties that applied for the RFP, but only one bid came in. This is obviously for the 902 grant that we received last year. So this is from Roto Chopper, and their bid price is $75,830.
830?
$75,830.
Okay. I'll call for a motion and second to allow staff to review, approve, and select the bid for the portable compost bagging machine.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Kent Veneer, second by Deb Clayton. Discussion?
Is that sort of what you're anticipating for a price?
Yeah, that's
Is
in
it
the
high, low?
No, that's right in the ballpark of
Okay.
what we estimated.
Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor to allow staff to review and approve and select the bids for the portable compost bagging machine, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next item is Emergency Management Coordinator appointment. I have a motion and second to appoint Matt Alman from Public Works Superintendent as the Emergency Management Coordinator for Bellefonte Borough, effective January 1st, 2003. 23.
I'll make the motion to appoint Matt Almond.
I'll
Johnson.
second.
Dan seconds. Discussion? I think he was a good choice for that. He
Yes.
has background in that, I think, a little bit, and
Yes.
knows the town well, so I think
Yes.
that'll work. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor to appoint Matt Almond as Public Works Superintendent as the Emergency Management Coordinator for Bellefonte Borough, effective January 1st, 2023, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Banner poles in poor condition memo. Consider disallowing over-the-street banners until such time that new poles are in place. Council may consider taking action. I would like to make a motion that we remove the current banner posts until they can be replaced, or just leave them out and not do the banners anymore. Whatever, I mean, I won't make that motion, but that's my thought.
I agree, I think they should be removed.
They probably should take them down so there's no accidents. They're leaning issues.
So I'll make a motion to take down the current poles, and once we discuss with PennDOT how to put something up that's safe, bring it back to council for final approval for reinstating the banners.
Well, yes, we want to do that because there's a cost to the borough,
Right, so that's why I'm making it as a
Yes.
first half and second half.
Yes.
I couldn't hear the ending of your proposal.
That the second half is that we talk with PennDOT, because they're the ones that would control putting up those poles. Find out what the cost is and how to safely put them up, and then once we find out that information, bring that part back to council to consider whether we're going to reinstate banners over the streets.
Okay, thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second, Sedgwick.
Second. Any other discussion? Okay. All right, no other discussion. All those in favor to suspend approval over the road banner applications and see what PennDOT comes back with as a fix for this, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And Ralph, you want to go back over your considered items for the
Well,
goals again?
the couple main things, the next work session will really be focused on just an overview of the budget, because the action item in the regular meeting will be to approve the tentative budget. We'll make it available for public inspection, advertise it accordingly with the plans of adopting it at the second meeting in December 19th. I would just ask you to, reflect back on the budget process. If there's something that's not on the list, that we didn't talk about, that you feel we need to address as part of our operations that we're currently not budgeting for. I gave a couple examples in the work session, such as cleaning the walkway or doing winter maintenance on the walkway, or maybe other areas of the park. Some of it's done by volunteers, and maybe we need to improve that to some extent. Talked about Musser Lane access, whether that's worth it or not, but if you want us to try to budget something, we need to put in the amount of resources we think it needs to address it. So that's what I wanted to say, and most of the time, again, will be on review of the budget with the intent of approving the tentative budget at the next meeting.
But there'll also be discussion of removing some items possibly?
Well, right now we're showing a decent deficit. It's not as high as we've ever seen, but there is a deficit. We're going to come in with recommendations, but likely there may be some still, maybe take a scalpel and touch some deficit areas to address. It's possible in order to avoid a tax increase to balance the budget.
When do we begin reading? whatever terminology you use, you bring your 1, 2, 3s, and 4s.
We can make sure, you can put in the ranking at any time. If you have trouble, contact Julie or us, and we'll try to help you through that process. But you're welcome to rank the budget items. We really focused on the general fund, so you have your different categories that we've touched on. You're welcome to go back in, look at the programs and services for each one, and then rank them as best you feel. That'll help us look at how to make some recommendations when we come in at the next work session.
Those our rankings will see maybe that $80,000 cut.
Well, that's the goal. Our goal is to use your rankings, your information, to help us, guide us in that
Okay.
process.
So we should be finishing these up soon.
Within the next, week and a half, thereabouts, yes, be helpful.
But we're still waiting on completion of the police budget.
The police budget, we have the overall number. We don't have the program services number. I think we're gonna try to do a better job capturing that going forward. But we're gonna have to try to estimate, where there's blanks this time around.
Okay. Any other questions on?
On the new business? Is that what
Well,
you're asking?
we're pretty much through with new business, yeah, so that was, you have other things you want to bring up?
Well, I thought we might hear a progress report on the core. I know they did the core drilling today of the repair on Water Street. I saw them.
I knew they were doing it, but I didn't hear the results.
No, I didn't either. I think Buddy had a question, if you don't.
Oh, sure, if I can answer it. Yeah.
I just have a statement. I know I've received some emails about the road closure. I just want to, thank the community members for their patience. And if there's any major concerns, they're more than welcome to reach out to me. But I know it's created a hardship on some more than others if they access that road. But everybody's patience is appreciated, and I know everybody's working hard to get the problem fixed. So thanks to everybody in the community for understanding that.
I could read a little bit of the email that I got from that Doug, Ralph, and I got from the MPO this morning.
They're basically moving as quickly as possible.
It basically says the important thing now is that what could be done immediately to address the situation. To that extent, the MPO staff has approved an administrative modification that will allow PennDOT to use low bid savings to get a contractor on site immediately to do soil borings. That should have happened today. They think they're on rock, but need to be determined that for sure. The borings are scheduled for today. And then once that happens, based on the outcome of the borings, they're considering two different approaches. Either they get maintenance out there to place rock and do a temporary repair, or they will bring in a contractor in to do a design build approach before the asphalt plants close at the end of next week. So they still don't know quite what's happening, basically.
Anything else? Seeing none, we're going to be moving into an executive session. We still have to talk about the evaluations. We're going to do that out here in this room. We're not showing anything that's secret. It's going to be basically blank forms. I just wanted to run it through council because once Mr. Stewart and the chief of police finish their paperwork, which they have, that'll be coming into me by noon of December 5th. And I'll share it with Mr. Johnson and Mr. Bernier, and we'll also get it out. That's when it'll come out to all council at that point. You'll have the finished product. What you're looking at tonight is just blank forms. We're just going to run over them real quick. Okay. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Clayton. Do I have a second?
Second, Dan.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have adjourned.
The meeting is.